Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my kids review wrap up for the month of October. This one is going to be a little bit different. I do have 3 titles that I was sent for review, and I am also going to be reviewing 2 additional picture books that I read. There was going to be a 3rd one in here. Actually, I might even talk about it. I just don't have it here. It's at school and I forgot to bring it home. Oh no. Hang on. Maybe I did bring it home. Success, it's here. Okay, so we're going to start with the review titles first. Alan and Unwin very kindly sent me 3 books for review this month, a picture book and 2 middle fiction novels. The picture book is Where Would You Go by Alison Lester and Jane Godwin, and this one is a collaboration that they did with the children at the Wurrundjeri Royal Children's Hospital School. So they actually did this in collaboration with kids attending the school at the Royal Children's Hospital who are undergoing treatment for various illnesses, diseases, etc. And the premise of this book is posing the question to the kids, where do the people go when they leave the hospital? And it's a really, really gorgeous collaboration. I'm assuming that the names of the people in the book are either children or hospital workers or people who are part of the hospital structure. And then the illustrations are done in collaboration with both Alison Lester, Jane Godwin and the children. So there are some really beautiful, gorgeous illustrations in here. And I think it's just a really wonderful book that is inspiring and hopeful and just absolutely charming. Then I received 2 middle fiction novels. These are both library hardback bound, which are always really lovely books. The first one is Rock Paper Incisors by Amy Timberlake with pictures by John Klassen. I adore John Klassen illustrations. I think they're just utterly charming. This is part of the Skunk and Badger series, and I have reviewed one of the books in this series before. I think there are actually 3 though. Yeah, I think I've reviewed Egg Marks the Spot, but not the first book. So Skunk and Badger are kind of an odd couple living together, and at the end of the second book they end up taking care of a couple of rat babies, and this book is all about how those young rats totally disrupt their ordered way of life, particularly Badger, who is trying to write an article. Skunk and Badger are rapidly trying to figure out how to raise these rats because these rats are inquisitive, they are intelligent, and they get up to all sorts of mischief. This is the perfect book for kids who love story about adventurous animals getting up to all sorts of hijinks, and poor Badger, who just struggles to meet his deadline but is surrounded by people who care about him. So that is Rock Paper Incisors. And then the next one is The Wondrous Tale of Lavendar Wolfe by Karen Foxlee, and Karen Foxlee is quite a beloved middle fiction fantasy author. And it's funny because I think this book is really wonderfully written, but it did prompt me to go and reflect on the way that I review books, both here and on Kidlit Joy, because Kidlit Joy is very much about promoting books and talking about who the right reader for them is, etc., as opposed to critiquing a book and my own personal opinions, because I'm not the intended audience, whereas this channel is very much about my personal enjoyment of books and things like that. And I've talked about this a lot recently, about that idea of separating the two, because again, not the intended target audience. So whether I like this book or not is actually kind of irrelevant in terms of reviewing over on the kids channel, because I know the intended audience for this book and I know that they will absolutely love it. Whereas for me, I found that it was just a bit long. And I talk about that a lot with middle fiction books, is that this length means that this book is only accessible to the really confident, really capable readers, or the middle fiction readers who have adults who still read to them. If you have kids that are kind of turned off reading, they're never going to pick up a book like this, especially one that is purely text as opposed to mixed with illustrations and things like that. But again, not a bad book, just this has a very specific audience. And it is about Lavendar Wolfe, who is a pickpocket. She's abandoned at the front of a wharf where she is kidnapped by a pirate and taken aboard a pirate ship and given a new name. This pirate ship is captained by a female pirate captain called Odysseia, and she and the rest of the ship are cursed. And the minute that Lavendar steps foot on the ship, she also becomes trapped within this curse, where they have to complete a series of tasks and find a missing ship and treasure by a certain period of time, or everyone who is affected by this curse turns to dust. This book features a story within a story, which explains and unravels the curse as you go along. It is a lot to hold in your head, which is probably my biggest critique of this, aside from the fact that it's quite long, is that you are expecting your middle fiction readers to be able to hold that in their mind. And I think particularly in this day and age, you have a very narrow window of the middle fiction readers that will pick this book up on a whim, as opposed to someone who it is specifically recommended to them. I think it's clever. I think the way that the story within the story was told was clever. I think there is a really interesting idea in this book where everyone who comes aboard this ship or is kidnapped and brought aboard this ship is female but is given a male name and is expected to play that part because it's part of the curse. As an adult, I would have liked that idea explored a little bit more, because I think it does really play into a lot of those gender norms and gender ideals, which would be cool to explore in a fantasy book. I don't think it really delved deeply enough into that to count for a discussion around gender in the book. But I do think it's one of those books that will appeal to those middle fiction fantasy readers who love this kind of stuff, because as I said, Karen Foxlee is a very popular author and her writing style is great. Like, it's very engaging and you want to know what's happening. She paces the book really well. But again, not necessarily something I would gravitate towards myself, but definitely something that I can see appealing to its target audience. Alrighty, then we have 3 picture books that I'm going to share. These are all books that I purchased myself because I was just very curious about them. The first one was Aggie and the Ghost by Matthew Forsythe, which I thought this would be really cool for Halloween season. And it's a gorgeously illustrated book. It's got a quirky little story about Aggie who ends up living with a ghost, and the ghost disrupts Aggie's life, and so Aggie starts imposing rules on the ghost, and the ghost is not happy about that, and then the ghost leaves, and then Aggie wants it back because Aggie is lonely. I don't know if it quite achieved what it was setting out to achieve, aside from being a really beautiful book. But I mean, I'll take this into the classroom. I have a stack of kids who will love reading it. I'm just not quite sure what the book was trying to do and whether it achieved it or not. Then we have one of the cutest, funniest books that I purchased this month. As soon as I saw this book had been released, I had to buy it. It is Dropbear by Philip Bunting. If you are at all familiar with the legend of the Dropbear in Australia, Dropbears like to drop down on unsuspecting tourists from trees and attack them. And this book takes that myth and really turns it on its head for kids. It is gorgeous and adorable in only the way that Philip Bunting can make this story. I loved it. This is like my new favorite Australian Halloween-ish like story. It's perfect for Halloween if you're in Australia because it just kind of has that dark atmospheric kind of story. Loved it. And then probably one of my favorite nonfiction books that I have read all year. This is a children's nonfiction book. Yes, those count for my nonfiction challenge because there's still quite a lot of information in kids' nonfiction books, so they do take a while to read. This is Ningaloo, Australia's Wild Wonder by Tim Winton and illustrated by Cindy Lane. This is a book that I have eagerly been anticipating from Fremantle Press ever since they announced that it was being released. If you're unfamiliar, Ningaloo is a barrier reef on the western coast of Australia in the northwest of Australia. It is a marine sanctuary. It has one of the most diverse ranges of ocean life left on the planet, and it is incredibly important to the ocean and the animals that live there because there are places in Ningaloo where you just have pods and pods of whales come for breeding season, so it's very, very important. I remember a few years back, Tim Winton was involved in a documentary series on the ABC here in Australia, which is different to the ABC in the US, just saying. And they did this documentary on Ningaloo and the ways that they are trying to preserve that, because the reef itself is preserved, but there is a section, Exmouth Gulf, which is where the whale breeding grounds are, that is not protected, and so they are looking at ways of trying to make sure that that is also preserved because it is important for wildlife. This book goes through all of that and it is beautifully illustrated in watercolor. It is stunning. It goes through all the different types of environments and communities, the mangrove community, etc., the rock community. And then you have sections on individual animals that live in the reef area. And then for extra information, there's just a whole section on different kinds of life and plant life that you find in and around Ningaloo, both in the ocean and along the coastline and on the land. There's information here on how to support the preservation of Ningaloo and how to take action. It is gorgeous. It's a beautiful information book. I think everyone should read it. I think it also makes a beautiful coffee table book. I saw it in the stores just after it had been released and I purchased a copy straight away because I couldn't not. So those are the kids' books I'm talking about this month. Thank you again to Alan and Unwin for these review copies. I have homes for all of them. They are going to go to good homes. I think I'm going to donate the middle fiction books to the school library because I know we have kids who love those books, and the picture book's definitely going into my classroom. Thanks very much for watching. In the comments, I would love to know, have you read any of these books? Are you planning on picking any of them up? Do you have other recommendations that are similar? Feel free to let me know down below. Otherwise, feel free to leave a whale emoji to let me know that you're here. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.